And I can't hold it much longer. Gonna let go so I can be free.
It is Friday, December 20th. Do you know where your free agents are? There's many still on the board. I know we're about to get to one, but I will say, Kratz, I expected a lot more this week. You always get the guessers. Oh, Soto's going to spark the market. Oh, Max Fried signed. There's your barometer for Corbin Burns, and then the rest are going to come off the board. Oh, here's Adames. That should play into Bregman. Nah, not yet. I mean, obviously, we got one name to hit, but there are a ton of names left. A lot of people thought most of the damage would get done before Christmas time. Good news. January, we're still going to have dozens and dozens of free agents to hit. And the trade route has been pretty popular for many teams early on here.
That seems like it's it's like their plan B. Obviously, you go away from Soto, you go away from Max Fried. It's like, well, we didn't get those guys. There's some good guys available in the trade route. We've hoarded our prospects for a little bit. We want to win. That's how teams – I love it. I love the fact that we're a little slow here. If we got a freaking waterfall right now, you couldn't drink in all the signings. We're just getting it out of a faucet right now.
I agree. I mean, think about it in terms of money that's been dumped. Andres Jimenez from Cleveland to Toronto. Almost saw Arenado get dumped from the Cardinals to the Astros. Crochet wasn't a money dump, obviously, but that was a route for Boston to take to get a big starter. Devin Williams was essentially, not a money dump, but a guy that was hitting free agency that you have to trade. Same with Kyle Tucker, and Cody Bellinger was most certainly a money dump. So anyway, there's been a lot of trades when you look back. Compared to previous years, a lot of times it's like, all right, well, we're going to handle the free agent market first, then we'll get to the trades. It's kind of been the reverse where it's like, oh, you're not meeting our price? We'll go to trades because they have to come over. The player's already locked into a deal. That team doesn't necessarily like that deal, or it's approaching free agency. So anyway, let's charge the damn Mound because we got a deal. Christian Walker to the Houston Astros, Kratz. That is some quick work. Jim Bowden reporting the deal done. Many others reporting how serious talks were going down, and it happened fast. So Walker is a veteran first baseman on the older side in the age curve that many front offices like to go down. But I will say this. If I was Dana Brown, GM of the Houston Astros, and I was given parameters to work with, right, not an unlimited budget, this is how I would do the offseason. He is getting aggressive, and he comes from the Braves organization where most off seasons, they are aggressive as well, right? So it's
get it done early.
We can't sign up Tucker long-term, got to trade him. Paredes helps us at third. Final offer to Bregman, it ain't happening. Let's get Arenado. He doesn't want to come here. Okay, Christian Walker, 2 days later.
Can I say that maybe this wasn't their plan and they've been kind of reeling and kind of making like they got punched with the whole with the whole Juan Soto thing? The whole Juan Soto thing signing, seeing what it's going to cost us to sign Tucker back. Bregman's talks haven't been going as well as we hoped. I think there's a world where they wanted to keep Tucker, keep Bregman, sign Bregman back, extend Tucker, and then find a first baseman. Maybe not as pricey as Christian Walker. We don't know what the numbers are yet. But they've kind of pivoted. They might not get Bregman, traded Tucker. Now they go and get Walker. This could spark, hey, you know what? Arenado, you still in? Because I heard he's not out. He's just out right now.
What do you think about the fit?
I think the fit is great for Christian Walker because of the extra dingers he's going to hit in the Crawford boxes. But he's not just a pull hitter. He's not Paredes. He can spray the ball everywhere. I think it was 6. I think the number was 6 extra homers from last year. Obviously, you pitch guys different, but he's a veteran hitter that can change his swing. I remember he's not Lance Berkman, but Lance Berkman would swing differently, right-handed, in Houston than he did when we faced him in Pittsburgh. He was that good, and veteran hitters are that good. So to me, I think it's a great pickup for him. I think it's a great pickup for the team. I'm a little concerned because of the last 4, if it's a 4-year contract, the last 4 4-year contracts of 34 years and older are Josh Donaldson. The last 2 years didn't end too well. Ben Zobrist, Nelson Cruz. That's a little, yiggity there. And Victor Martinez. All aged out of that a little bit. The benefit here, he plays unbelievable defense at first base, which is really hard to do in the sense of scoring defensive runs saved. He's the best there is, so you're getting gold over there, which improves the rest of your infield defense.
And we got some money from Bob Nightingale. He says 3 years, $60 million, 20 a year. Makes a ton of sense.
Love that.
He was pushing. There were some reports when I was reading some of the notes. He's pushing for 4. That's what you should do. If you've got multiple 3s, you go for 4. Didn't seem like anyone was going for 4. Doesn't want to wait and says, okay, I'll take the best 3 or the 3 on the team that I like the best. So he'll live $20 million a year for 3 seasons for Christian Walker, who finally hits free agency, like you said, at this age. And the Astros had Jose Abreu. They invested 3 years at a somewhat similar price for Abreu, and he completely hit the skids. Age got the best of him out of baseball. They cut him early last year. They go with a vet. Not everybody's the same. Like you said, I could see Christian Walker doing really well, aging better, hard hit numbers off the charts, pick on the Crawford boxes, play top 3 first base D in baseball. The position matters to the Astros. I think that part's clear. And now they've locked their corner infield in. Walker at first, Isaac Paredes at third. They can handle the outfield now, being that they lost Tucker. But this is good work by the team in my mind. This is a team that does not want to go take a step back. And by replacing Tucker with Paredes and Walker, they're not Kyle Tucker, but that is a really, really good start to an offseason to replace those 2 in the lineup. Obviously, it's not just Tucker. I'm talking about Bregman now too. Huge, huge losses. But come on. Does anyone think the Astros won't be competitive for a playoff spot this year?
No, nobody expects that. Nobody expects that. They always step up somehow. And they don't just step up because they have a trash can, save that. They don't just step up because they have good players. It's because the front office is willing to make moves and ownership is willing to make moves that might not be the best. Kyle Tucker was a very well-liked player in that clubhouse and in that fan base. He's not signing back. Let's pivot. Let's figure out how to keep this team really good. And for Astro fans who are worried, oh no, Jose Abreu, now we just got another aging first baseman. Astros fans and Astros hope to sign Jose Abreu for what he did the 2 years prior to coming to Houston, when he was 14th and I think 19th in the MVP voting. Still a very viable player at age 34 and 35. Christian Walker will play his first 2 years at 34 and 35. Jose Abreu came in at 36 and got released at 37. So there's not a similarity in the players, just the age. And so that, to me, is where a 3-year deal is so awesome. 4 years, it gets a little stretchy there, but I love that for the Astros. And at $20 million, whew, I'd like to see what some other teams offered. I bet the Red Sox were in.
Yeah. Sounded like the Yankees were not in. So Bob Nightingale also put out that they were interested in Walker, but didn't want to lose a draft pick in compensation. They're still focused on Paul Goldschmidt and Carlos Santana. Also, side note, draft pick sounds like a cute excuse. The other 2 players I just mentioned, not costing 3 years, $60 million. So there's probably a money factor there. I mean, really, we're that concerned about the draft pick. The Astros have lost plenty of draft picks, and they're always picking at the back of the draft, too. They've lost draft picks because of the scandal from years back, and their farm system is not good, yet they say, yeah, we're worried about today and 2025. So they lose their 2nd and 5th highest picks for the 2025 draft. They'll get a 4th-round compensation pick back for losing Bregman, because that's the other part of the equation here, Kratz. That's it. Close the book on Alex Bregman and his Astros career. For me, I think they actually knew this for a while, and they were doing the token, let's leak the offer. Here's Ken would almost certainly mean Bregman's gone from Houston and that Arenado won't end up there. Astros would go with Walker at first and Paredes at third. 6 years was not going to get it done. I mean, Bregman's going to get at least 7, potentially 8, depending on who the team is and if they want to stretch the average annual value out, and closer to $200 million. The Astros were in the mid 100s. It's a very solid offer. It's really good public optics, but it wasn't going to happen. And then they don't even wait to see if they could find common ground or, if he was going to end up going back there. It's done, right? They're moving on. I think they knew they were not going to be close enough in the running for this player.
For sure. And I think it probably comes down to those years. While a team may not offer a ton more, they can offer it more in years. I was just looking to see, what 8 for 200 comes out to easy 25. If you look at like 180 for 7, again, you're at the 25 range. Astros might be willing to do 25, but if they're not willing to go, I forget what their number was before.
6. They won't go above 6.
6 years. So you're talking a significant, you're getting the 150 range. And what did they say they offered? 56? 156?
156 was the offer that they purposely floated out to reporters.
So he might get 180 for 7, 180 for 8. That's a significant amount of money. It's another $25 million, but it's stretched. So he's not getting the AAV. I think he wants the most money. And like Chipper Jones said the other day, any year that you let a free agent go, they get to see what else is out there and they get courted and they might fall in love.
Well, let's be real. The real reason, Todd Father, what's up, that the Astros signed Christian Walker is that they think they're going to be a World Series team next year and they think they're going to face the Dodgers. And there is nobody better to face the Dodgers on the entire planet and maybe in Major League history than Christian Walker.
Yeah, first off, sorry, guys. Had a little technical problem there. Now I'm good to go.
You're good. You look good.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys hit on this, but the first thing that comes to my mind is Nolan Arenado. I mean, have you guys hit on that a little bit? Like,
not enough. Tell us, how quick was this pivot? And Arenado doesn't get to go back to Houston anymore and later on in the offseason go, I'll take it. I'll take a few extra $1 million, no state income tax, and join a contender.
Yeah, exactly. So is the grass always greener? You take a chance. Sometimes you roll the dice and, could backfire on you, could not. I mean, now you got Christian Walker, the guy's absolute stud. This is a pivotal swing for the Astros. We knew they were going to do something. We knew they were going to find a way, especially seeing what they did last year. They got rid of a couple key cogs, and this is a big time pickup for them. And that left field, what is it? The Crawford boxes? Beware, he's going to scoop that jelly all day over there. This kid is an unbelievable athlete. And he's a star, and you said it, he dominates the Dodgers. So we'll see if he can do it in a different uniform.
And lastly, just one other thing, then we'll hit the break. Todd Father, we were talking right at the finish line here about Bregman. That's it. You're going to see Bregman in a different uniform next year. He's going to be with maybe Boston, maybe the Yanks, maybe Detroit, but it's not going to be the Houston Astros.
Yeah. So one chapter has to come to an end. I mean, when you read a book, at the finish, there's always a finish line. There's always a new chapter too, as well, in the next book they make. And for him, we'll see where he goes. This is very interesting. Now it turns from Soto now to Bregman and a couple other guys. So, oh boy, interesting holiday season coming up here. Maybe something happens sooner than later, but I got a feeling it'll be like the calm before the storm once the new year comes around.
Yeah, hopefully everyone chills for a week. Give the front offices a break. But Crush City Territory is a brand new Houston Astros show on the FT Network, and obviously they're all over this. Chandler Rome's been all over the storylines with the Astros this offseason, breaking some news, putting some reports out there, and then also, of course, delivering them to you. Love the graphic. Great job by the graphics team. But go check it out. The YouTube channel's there, and so is the podcast, wherever you get your pods. Give them a listen. They'll put out an emergency episode on this very move. Ken Rosenthal is going to join us next on FT to talk about the Christian Walker signing and some other notes that he just put out there in his article. All right, so while we have 2 minutes, what about the Yankees side of the equation, Todd Father? This was a name that was brought up, so you can cross off one of the top 2 first basemen that are free agents available. There's a very clear-cut tier up here, right? There's Pete, then there's Christian, and then there's the rest. I don't get the feeling that the Yanks are going after Pete. And actually, this should hammer it home, too. Pete got the qualifying offer. I mean, the Yankees clearly just leaked to Bob Nightingale that they weren't going after Christian Walker because of the draft pick compensation that they'd have to give up. So Pete's the same. They're clearly not going down that route, and they're going to go bargain shopping for Goldschmidt, Carlos Santana types over at first base who can glove it, but you're not sure about the bat.
Yeah, and it seems like there's always a couple guys during the off season where it's like, why haven't they gotten picked up? You know, what are these teams waiting for? And then all of a sudden, January comes, and then late in the middle of January, like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, where is this guy going to go? And now it's like the feeling like he's not going to go back to another New York team. Is Steve Cohen still in the mix over there? Is he still talking to him? Maybe trying to get a team-friendly deal? I don't know where else. Like, it's something that you got to really think about. He's a really good ball player. It just seems like it happens to a couple guys. People are like, oh, no, you know, you can be on the chat talk. Hey, they got time. Don't worry. It's a long offseason. No. This comes quick. I've been a part of it. I understand it. And not many people are talking about him. So that's where it's like really confusing to me. The guy hits 30, 40 home runs a year. He's a great bat, and his defense has gotten a lot better. I mean, always people talk about the defense. Listen, the guy could play first base. He's one of the best guys to pick baseballs. You know, his percentage over there is really good. So forget about the defense. Defense is fine. The guy can mash, and he's a guy that's going to help out whoever your big gun is. So somebody needs to step up and get this guy real quick because he's going to be a superstar. Well, he is a superstar. He's going to be even bigger of a name going wherever he goes.
I feel like he's going back to the Mets. I feel like the Mets have a standing offer. Like, look, this is what we offered you. We're man-to-man here. We know what your value is. This is what we think your value is. Go ahead, see what else is out there. If it's not, we'll take you. I just don't think I don't think it's very contentious. I think he'll be back in New York, and I think the Mets need him.
Yeah.
What's the inside scoop? FT Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal with us on the Christian Walker signing for the Houston Astros. Well, Ken, that was quick. I like decisiveness, and that's what the Astros just showed us this week.
Well, when Arenado blocked the trade the other day, there was no guarantee that they were going to stay in the mix for him. There's been no guarantee that they were going to sign Alex Bregman. So this way, you guys went through it. Christian Walker at first, Isaac Paredes at third. It's a different Astros team. No Kyle Tucker. No Bregman, most likely. And it's just going to have a different look than we've seen in recent years. Those guys, Tucker and Bregman, were absolute fixtures with the Astros. Homegrown guys, first-round draft picks. And now it appears Tucker already is gone and Bregman will be too.
Is this a domino effect from the Juan Soto deal? Because I laid this out. I just said it. You follow the trail better than I do, but Juan signs. Crap, we can't sign Tucker because he's going to be worth possibly $400 million, $350 million. I don't know if Bregman's going to take it. We have to pivot, and it all became a domino effect of, hey, this is who we ended up with.
Erik, that would seem to be part of it. I never thought Bregman was going to sign there because Jim Crane, the owner, has not been into monster deals. It's not something that he has been advocating or even done in his tenure as owner. Now, they've had extremely successful teams. We all know that, but they have not gone, I don't know, beyond 150 or whatever Altuve's deal is right now. So I never expected Bregman to be back there, even though, of course, he's a fixture. And then, yes, the Soto deal definitely influenced the Tucker talks, I would say, because once that number was out there, the Astros knew, if they didn't know it already, how difficult it would be to re-sign Tucker. And then they had to come to grips with, all right, we might not have Kyle Tucker as a free agent or after next year because he's going to be a free agent, and that's what this led to.
Ken, what do you think's the aftermath from here? So it sounded like this could have been a good fit for a team like the Yankees. Also, it sounded like the Astros could have been a potential fit for Pete Alonso. So what do you think about the rest of the shakeup here with the first base market? Tons of names on that market.
It's really interesting, Scott. And I reported last night that the Yankees are increasingly likely to look at a more inexpensive option than Alonso or Walker. And I believe you guys mentioned it earlier. And I wrote this too. The qualifying offer and the potential loss of 2 more draft picks was a factor here. Remember, they lost their 2nd and 5th highest picks for Max Fried. If they had signed Walker or if they signed Alonso, they would also lose their 3rd and 6th highest picks. You're essentially blowing up your draft. Now, you're the Yankees. You might do that for 1 year, but it's not something that teams really like to do at all. They hate losing draft picks because, of course, that's the access or the way to access young talent. So that was a factor. Price seems to be a factor as well. They want to go cheaper at that position, and there are multiple options. Let's face it, you can look at the first base free agent market beyond Alonso. It's Justin Turner, it's Paul Goldschmidt, it's Carlos Santana, it's Josh Bell. All of these options, there are trade possibilities as well. Josh Naylor is one, and you have others. So they can kind of survey the landscape, whether it's Yandy Diaz in a trade or Josh Naylor in a trade or Nathaniel Lowe in a trade, or more likely, in my estimation, one of the free agents that you can get for roughly the same price you'd be paying one of the trade guys without giving up players. So they're not giving up players if they sign one of those guys. They're not giving up draft picks by avoiding Alonso and Walker, and that seems to be the way they're going to go. So the next question becomes, where does Alonso end up? And I agree with what Erik was just saying during the bonus segment. All signs still point toward the Mets. Might not be the deal that he totally wants, but where is the market for him beyond the Mets? Now, I'm sure there are teams interested kicking the tires. They always do, but I don't expect the Yankees to do it. It seems to me that the most logical place, as it has been all along, is back at Citi Field.
Ken, if we survey the first base landscape, there's this huge monster dude up in Toronto who plays first base and is going to be a free agent after next year. Can you kind of hit on where he's at with the Jays right now, and also how all of this first base, Yankees aren't spending on first base, so now all of a sudden it looks like one less suitor, maybe Vlad then signs an extension, how this is all playing into it?
Well, I reported today that the Jays are trying to get an extension done with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And it shouldn't be a surprise. They want him. They want to keep him long term. He loves Toronto, and they clearly need him as their foundation going forward. The question, again, in the wake of the Soto signing, is what's the price going to be? And if Juan Soto is at $765 and Vlad Guerrero Jr. is going to be a free agent only a year older, entering his age 27 season instead of 26, is he half of Juan Soto, around $400 million? I would think he wants to be more than half of Juan Soto. So maybe the number starts with a 5. And are the Jays willing to do that? Is that something that they would entertain? I don't know. We've heard all offseason that they are desperate to do something big. Their front office is potentially in trouble here. Mark Shapiro, club president, 1 more year on his contract. Ross Atkins, the general manager, 2 more years. They're coming off a dismal season, last place in the AL East. They need to do some things. Signing Vlad Jr., the way I wrote it, would be the starting point, the foundation, the centerpiece of what you want to do going forward. And we'll see if it gets done, but obviously they have to know, and Vlad's camp knows as well, that the Yankees are out there, most likely are not going to go long-term at first base. Now, after signing the players that they have, maybe they won't do it next year either. But at the same time, the Jays know all this. They can see the landscape, not just this offseason, but next offseason and beyond. And they can see that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to command a high price. We all know that now.
Do you think this is a playoffs or bust situation for Toronto right now? And also, I'd like to mention that they've been in on a lot of people, and I'm sure they're trying, but they actually really haven't done anything yet this offseason, and they were the worst team in the division last year.
They made the Jimenez trade, and
Right.
that was no small thing. They brought in a guy who is a platinum glove winner at second base, can shift over to shortstop if they trade or lose Bichette as a free agent. So that's one thing that they have done. But you're right, Scott. And what's the next move? They've been in on Burns. They have been in to some degree on Bregman. A reunion with Bregman and Springer, maybe that's the plan. I don't know. And you're right. They've had a hard time getting players to come there. I don't really know why. The only reason in my mind would be not the city or the country at this point. It would be the state of the team and the weak farm system, the potential of Guerrero and both him and Bichette leaving. That would be the worrisome part of me as a free agent. Not Toronto, one of the great cities of the world, or anything to do with Canada. But I'm looking at that team if I'm a player right now, and I'm saying, I'm not so sure where they're going forward. Remember, as I just said, too, their front office might be in flux. So there are a lot of questions there if you're a player.
All right, well, third base is also locked up in another mecca of baseball in Sacramento. The Gio Urshela signing. Is that the type of signings we're going to see for the rest of the way out so they can get all their spending money spent?
I believe so, yes. And I pause there because I recall reporting at some point, I don't remember, September, August, whatever, that their plan was to be at 130 million to 150 million in the ramp-up years going to Vegas. Now, maybe they weren't going to get there exactly this year, but that was the range I had heard and reported. They're not going to get to 130 this year. They will get to about 100, 110 perhaps, but it's going to be really interesting to see how John Fisher handles this going forward. Gio Urshela is a nice player, and he's a kind of guy, the kind of veteran you want on a team like that. He's stable. He plays good defense. He'll give you what he can offensively. He's not young anymore, of course, but good on a team. Severino deal was their big splash. The Jeffrey Springs trade was a good trade for them as well, even though they gave up a guy, Joe Boyle, that some people think can really take off. It's just that the promise of spending there and the promise of doing bigger things, that has again been delayed. And I will believe John Fisher will spend when I see him spend. I will believe they are in Vegas when I see them in Vegas. They're a team that I just hold great skepticism about. And gee, I wonder why.
Would you love, wrapped up in a gift, a beautiful big free agent signing during Christmas? Or wait till after the new year and everybody just take a silent period and allow everybody to enjoy this holiday season?
Well, first of all, I will be taking a silent period, so people can do whatever the heck they want. I'll be off. I only take 2 weeks off a year. It's Christmas week, and there's a week in August after the deadline, and that's the way the sport works. It's always going. I expect there will be deals next week, maybe even big deals, but I have to stop at some point. They might not stop, but I'm going to stop at some point. So you ask about a quiet week. There used to be a time, even before you guys played, where there was that kind of quiet period. And it was the Christmas holiday where teams did nothing. But now that isn't the case anymore. And baseball doesn't enforce anything. And I don't know that they necessarily need to. But I recall when Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer went to Curt Schilling's house Thanksgiving that one year, 2000 or so, 2002, 2003, whatever it was, when they convinced him to trade to Boston. And that to me kind of changed everything. That's when people started saying, well, the holidays don't matter anymore. Bad idea, bad trend. And I blame Theo and Jed.
Yeah, I remember that story. And big respect, Ken. Yeah, you deserve the time off. Everyone will live. They'll get their news right when you're back. Okay, so question for you about two other signings that are now being overshadowed since we talked about Walker a lot. But in the past 24 hours, Max Kepler signs with the Phillies. Patrick Sandoval signs with the Boston Red Sox. Thoughts on moves there and what the teams are doing?
Kepler's kind of interesting. I wouldn't have anticipated the Phillies going to him. Really good defender. Didn't have a good year last year. A guy that has great promise, but has never really fulfilled that promise. He is certainly a talented guy. And the Phillies are looking to change things up. I don't know that he's going to be the main thing they do. It was an interesting signing to me, maybe even a little bit curious. I don't see him as a Phillies guy necessarily. But the defense alone, that will help them because their outfield defense at times is problematic. We all know that. Sandoval is really interesting. $18.25 million for 2 years. He's coming off a TJ, and he's not going to be available till the second half, most likely. So you're paying for the second year. We've seen deals like this in the past. Brandon Woodruff with the Brewers, same thing. Brandon Woodruff this year will be in the second year of this kind of deal, and the Brewers expect him to be part of their rotation. The interesting part of Sandoval to me is that the Angels could have had him and kept him for much less. It would have been something like $5.5 million in arbitration this year. Then with him not pitching much this year, maybe $6 million next year. And they chose not to do that. That's their choice. I get it, but it seems curious to me that the Red Sox valued him at a level so much higher than the Angels did, and the Angels knew him. Sandoval's a good pitcher. We all know that when healthy. So I like this move for the Red Sox. I still believe they need one more starter, one more healthy starter to go with Crochet and the others to start the season. But this is a move for both this season, late in the season, and in 26.
Yeah, big win for the player to get a lot more money.
Yes.
Because you would think if the name was floated around, the team would have traded for him. But I guess maybe the plans changed for the Red Sox. And they're like, all right, now he's a free agent. We don't have to give anything up for him. But I'll finish with this, kind of circling back to the top story of the day, but just trying to hit the Cardinals Nolan Arenado side of this. You know, there's a lot of great reporting in The Athletic this week about the whole situation. The part that I have a hard time understanding is how he wants to wait. It was early in the offseason. He wants to see how the market plays out. I'm like, wait, is he a free agent or is he being traded? I know his agent, Joel Wolf, is involved in talking to teams, or they are saying it's okay for him to do so. But for me, I'm like, all right, Ken, he's not going to the Dodgers. Clearly, they're not interested in him. They've got a guy at third base. He must have a list of 2 or 3 other teams that are in his mind that were way above the Astros that he's saying, I'm going to risk waiting for that. Otherwise, I'll stay in St. Louis.
That's what he did. And he lost an option today. With Walker likely going to Houston, that closes off Houston for him. And that's the risk he took when he decided he didn't want to go to Houston this early in the offseason, or at this stage of the offseason. I understand it. If you've got other places in mind, you've got the no trade clause, you can effectively determine your destination. That's fine. But teams are not going to necessarily wait for you. And the Astros clearly didn't wait for him. Maybe he ends up with a team that is on his preferred list. Maybe it's Boston. Maybe it's the Yankees. I have no idea. But you're right, Scott. The options now are diminished because the Dodgers was never really going to be an option for him. And the Astros certainly will not be if they get Walker. So he took that risk, and now he's going to have to deal with the consequences. And the problem is, let's say his teams, the ones he wants to go to, don't want him. And maybe they go in other directions, or they have other players that they want to use in those spots, or that spot, third base. Then it's looking like he might end up back in St. Louis, which is not what he wants. It's not what the team wants. It would not be a good outcome.
Yeah, they basically had a deal done, and they were going to take on a lot of money, which is a factor too, because the ownership, group has to approve it, and they're not trying to eat all of Nolan Arenado's deals. So yeah, there were just so many signs here that pointed to a team that's been in the playoffs 8 straight years, but it made a few million more bucks too with the no state income tax. But anyway, that's his
St.
choice.
Louis was
Doesn't want to
clearing
go there.
all but $15 million of the remaining $64 million that he was owed by St. Louis. That was a big chunk. That was a $40-something million saving, and it's not going to happen now. So at least it won't happen with the Astros. Now, can they get that deal with another team? We'll see. There's not as much leverage. There's not as many opportunities now.
Could be a topic next week on Fair Territory. Ken, thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Ken Rosenthal hosting Fair Territory, of course, in addition to popping on Foul for this breaking news. You can listen to yesterday's show covering plenty of other topics, including where the Mets are at with their starting rotation. That part of the show is interesting for me. And then, of course, back on Monday for more Fair Territory. We will be right back. A lot more to cover, including some of those signings that I just mentioned. And Roki Sasaki is meeting with teams. You know how I mentioned at the top of the show, the Astros being decisive? I'll give you another layer of how cool it is to be an owner of a baseball team, Todd Father. I am trying to trade for a really good player and take on most of his money, Nolan Arenado, okay? We're like, we want you. We're taking on most of this. We're a good team. He says no, and maybe we'll talk later in the offseason. I'm like, I'm a billionaire. My team's won World Series titles. You don't want to be here? Beat it. Moving on.
Yeah, but I always think you got to have it in your back pocket. Even though he says no, you got to understand as businessmen, now players, they're getting the upper hand here a little bit on some things. So it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. But yeah, I'm going to look for somebody else at the same time. I'm not going to sit there and sit on my rear end and say, oh man, hopefully he comes back after the Christmas break, a Christmas miracle. But yeah, they're always looking. And guess what? They had something else in their back pocket. And that's the chance and the risk you got to take.
Mm-hmm. Kratz, you would do the same thing. You want to bring in people that
I would
want to be there.
That would be how I'd run my organization. I know a story of a closer who got offered a very, very nice contract. His agent floated it out there, floated it to the media, and the owner of the team that offered the contract to the closer said, no, that's not how we're going to do business. Turned around 2 days later, signed a closer that signed a 4-year deal that was bigger than the one they offered the other guy, but the other guy was homegrown. The other guy, he gone. That's how I'd run it.
Boom.
I'll be straight up with you. I'll treat you fair. I'll treat you right, but you have to do the same thing. Don't go bargain binning with the other teams on me because I'm not bargain binning for my team. Not saying that Arenado did that, but good for the Astros, good for Jim Crane, Dana Brown, whoever made this happen. They pivoted, went with their guy.
And
I could see. Yeah, go ahead.
To finish it too, like think about it. Arenado he's not hurting either. So maybe he wants to go to a better team. This might all unravel, and he might not be on the team he asked for or wanted to, but he's still going to be a baseball player. He's still very good, and he's still making a lot of money, and he's still going to enjoy this wonderful game of baseball. So it's not like he's in a situation where there's hatred towards people, as far as we know. So again, yeah, all right, didn't happen. Maybe I made a mistake. Guess what? I can still sleep on my pillow at night knowing that I'm still playing with a team, that I've have a good relationship with, that I'm trying to figure stuff out with. There's still a long ways to go.
Spreading rumors. So Jeff Passan put out some notes in an article yesterday, and the part that was interesting was just seeing how many players have been talked about in trades. There's some of the names we've gone over quite a bit, but then there are names in here like the Padres willing to consider creative deals that could move infielders Jake Cronenworth or Luis Arraez. Of course, he mentioned Luis Roberts' name. That's no surprise. Other outfield names that he mentioned who could be up for grabs: Starling Marte, Lane Thomas on Cleveland, San Francisco's Mike Yastrzemski. Taylor Ward's definitely been in trade rumors for the past year or so. Then you've got that first base market, which becomes more interesting now with one free agent off the board, Josh Naylor maybe for the Guardians, which, man, if that move happens, that's going to be painful for Cleveland. They really like him out there. Dude's been good, and he rocks the baby. He rocks the freaking baseball these days. He's gotten better. I don't know. Anyway, that one's going to be interesting if it actually happens. Nathaniel Lowe, Lamont Wade Jr., some more names that we're aware of. And then the arms he mentioned, Luzardo, Fetty, Paddock, John Gray, Dylan Cease, which, again, for me is another tough one. But maybe the Padres are trying to switch things up. The funny thing for me, Kratz, is if I'm San Diego, I actually don't need to do that much this offseason. That team was damn good and hitting its stride at the end of the year. They just came up empty and had some weird vibes going at the finish line against the Dodgers, but they might have been the best team in baseball by the end of the season.
I think if you're the Padres, you have to be honest. You have to be honest that you're a year out from just, why are we not winning? Besides the month of September, and then an unbelievable year. So you have 2 really good years where they were Bryce Harper away from making the World Series, and this year the Dodgers away from winning the World Series, essentially. But if you're the Padres, you have to continue to move this way because you're not going to be able to continue to give $300 million out to different players. And I think if you get value for Arraez, I think you get it, but I don't think the value is in the offseason. I think the value is in Jake Cronenworth right now People are going to say, oh, the contract's not worth it or not. Whether it's worth it or it isn't, his value is sky high, and I think this is the type of player that he is and not the 660 OPS that he had 2 years ago.
Listen, I love Luis Ariz. I think he's absolutely unbelievable. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. He's a guy that you are going to love and enjoy watching play, and he's just one of those dudes. Whether you want to trade for him now or later, I don't know why everybody is not on his tail. This is a dude. He's a trendsetter. He's a guy. I don't know why the Padres are trying to get rid of him. I mean, if somebody has an answer for me, I don't know. He's one of the prolific hitters in the game, and he just understands how to play. He's not the power guy, but he's an on-base machine. He doesn't strike out. Kratz, you talk about it all the time. People that don't strike out, they get after it and get on base.
I'll tell you why they're not looking to keep him. The offseason, everybody punches in their algorithm. They're like, how many WAR is this player? Luis Ariz is only going to give us 0.7 WAR this year? He could have a great year and give us 1 WAR?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing right now. Teams are
Silly.
doing that right now. But the guy just when he was in Minnesota, they were a good team. When he went to Miami, they made the playoffs. When he went to San Diego, they made it back into the playoffs. He's a guy that helps a team win. Teams don't build winners right now. They build WAR in the offseason. So that's why his name will always be floated out there. But that's why I don't think it would be in the offseason that would move. I don't think his value is high enough.
I'm just not
bingo.
I love people always love numbers. You know me. I can't stand it. I'm an eye test guy.
I get it.
Yeah, I know, and I know you do, and that's infuriating. You know, just like small market teams that don't go after big names sometimes. Listen, WAR snore. That's my opinion. If the guy can play, find a way to get him on your squad. He bats. He's a guy that's got the best average most in the last couple of years. He's been dominant. He gets on base. What happened to getting on base and getting in and scoring? What wins above replacement? Okay, great. Whatever. I'm an eye test guy, and I think a lot of people should start doing that as well.
If Taylor Ward is truly available here, we look at this list, and I don't know if we have the graphic to show the entire list, but Taylor Ward on this list, to me, really stands out. I think he could be a guy that a team could pick up and plug right in, and I don't think the Angels want to keep him, but I'm also really surprised he didn't go at the trade deadline. But then again, nobody really went at the trade deadline. So
yeah,
I love Taylor Ward on this list over other guys, not because other guys aren't better than him, but because I don't think they're moving Rengifo. I think Starling Marte's best years are behind him. I think Luis Robert is too much of a question mark. So I love Taylor Ward on this list. He's probably my favorite on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Kratz, he's a tricky player. I guess you could call streaky. I mean, I just always remember talking about him having 1 or 2 insane months and then the production dropping off or vice versa, right? I mean, last year it was a good start and then brutal since June. It's usually the hot start, but I think there was one, I think in 2023, it was the slow start and then things picked up. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we watched the game enough where I don't need stats to know that this player has, you know who was like this? And obviously he was a better player, but Justin Upton could carry a team for like 1 or 2 months in a year. And then most of the rest of the year, you're like, damn, where is he? But during those 1 or 2 months, he's a top 5 hitter in baseball. Like he's that good. He's just homer every other day, whatever. And then he'll disappear for a while. I feel like Taylor Ward, in terms of the production, gives you a diet version of that sometimes.
For different reasons. I know what you're talking about, Upton, and I get it. I mean, hot as the reason you're picked 1 or 2 in the draft. Like, I get it. And, I mean, what a Baduka dunk that guy had. And he would just hit with it all day. Completely different build than his brother, Melvin, BJ Upton. But Taylor Ward, to me, he's got a lot. He's got a big swing in the sense of not his actual swing path, but he's got a lot going on, and I think it gets out of rhythm. I'm not saying it's a perfect fit, but I'm saying you go to a place that has a hitting coach like a Kevin Long with the Phillies. I'm not saying he's going to the Phillies. I'm saying situation like that where you can keep a guy mechanically locked in for an entire season, I think he has the potential. The one concerning factor for me is why on earth, and maybe this is because they didn't have Trout in the lineup, they didn't have Ohtani in the lineup, and he's a better secondary type of player. Why on earth did he balloon up to 163 punchies this year? I get it. I think they gave him like 100 more at bats, but I think he had one season where he had 100 some. To me, he plugs right into a team. Not saying the Dodgers, but I'm saying a team that's loaded in a lineup, and now you plug him in the 6-7 hole. Super production.
And maybe a little platoon action. I don't know what his
splits
aren't. You're saying just don't overexpose the bat to a 663 plate appearance season. Maybe the 400 or 500 range is better.
Don't overexpose him when you see that his mechanics are breaking down, because I feel like his timing is so much. He's got that big, you can't explain it here, but he's got that big move. And when that timing is breaking down, it is so hard. You're behind the fastball and you're out in front of breaking balls.
All right. So next player we want to hit on the free agent market is Roki Sasaki. And he had a little meeting in New York City. We're going to talk to Anthony DiComo about it, who will join us on the show for the first time covering the Mets next on FT. Little love to America's #1 organic hemp brand, Cornbread, for being a sponsor here on FT. I'll ask Todd Father this. Holiday season sometimes can get fill in the blank. What's the word?
Hectic.
That's a good one. I was thinking stressful hits
stressful,
that note.
hectic.
A little insomnia at times. If you got fam in the house, you need a push.
Can make you a little crazy sometimes. Make your outer body craziness. Yes, for sure.
So check out everything that this company has. If you want to feel rested, relaxed, free of discomfort, they can help you get there. You can shop THC to relax, CBD for sleep, CBD for stress. There's some CBD gummies here on sleep right there. Boom, there you go. There's the box. Chamomile, lavender, full spectrum hemp extract, etc. It's grown in Kentucky. So go check it out. If you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, give Cornbread Hemp a try. They've created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy. It's 100% legal and has a special offer for the FT fam, 30% off your first order at cornbreadhemp.com using code BASEBALL30. BASEBALL30 for 30% off your first order. 21 plus only. They can ship everywhere except Idaho. We're back. Let's bring in Anthony DiComo, who covers the Mets for MLB.com. Anthony, great to see you. Happy holidays. And I was like, wait, I needed to do a double take. We really never had you on FT. And I just think back to all of the conversations we've had in my past life and think I've talked to you on this current life.
I think I've had to say no like 3 or 4 times for whatever reason, and happy
Okay,
to
so it
finally
wasn't
be
us.
here. Yeah, it's
It was
Kratz.
Kratz.
Yeah.
It was me. I
Well,
feel
great.
like it
Yeah.
was me because I felt like you were on here too. I feel like I remember your map, the river map behind you.
That is the long trail in Vermont. Hiking trail goes from Canada down to Massachusetts. Yeah.
All right, so take us from Japan to Queens now. Roki Sasaki apparently meeting with the team. But before you give me any details, if you have, do you really believe that he will sign with a team outside the Dodgers? Do you, like, in your own just opinion? Because for me, just being in the game for a while, I kind of think some of this is just a ruse, and maybe the Padres have an outside chance, but it's good for ethics to make everyone feel like they're involved, even if he has a destination in mind. What do you think?
I really don't think that this is necessarily Dodgers or bust. Look, I think the Dodgers are always going to be the biggest threat these days when you start talking about anyone who comes over because they have such a good rep. They have a great rep with Japanese players. They have a good rep in general as being a winning organization. So sure, you can paint them as the favorite, but yeah, I could see the Padres doing it. I could see one of the New York teams doing it. I could see even a smaller market team like I don't know, the Mariners, just to throw one out there, doing it. I really do feel like this is wide open, and I was kind of struck by at the winter meetings when Sasaki's agent Joel Wolf kind of talked to a lot of us in the media, and we all asked questions like, "Well, what is this guy like? What does he value, etc." And Joel's responses were generally like, "I don't really know yet. We're just getting into this process." So because the money is such a relative non-factor, it makes this such a unique free agency that I really do feel like there are quite a few teams that have a chance. And while the Dodgers obviously look good on paper, I'm not going to rule out a bunch of other teams, the Mets included.
I don't know. I don't know. The only reason I'm ruling him out is because his agent at the winter meeting said every team that he was interested in talked about except for the Dodgers. It was like, hey guys, it was like the whole like snowball. You make a snowball and you throw it up in the air and everybody looks at it and then
Yeah.
whack, you hit the snowball in the face. But anyway, if he's actually has a shot at going to the Mets, is he enough of a reclamation project for the Mets? Because that seems like what the Mets are only. It's like, well, we have a shot at getting Corbin Burns. No. He's already fixed. We're going to take the next reclamation project.
Look, I it's an interesting situation, and this isn't just for the Mets. This is for every team. But I think they look at it as we're going to go ahead. We're going to have our off season, and if Roki Sasaki decides at the end of January that he wants to sign in Queens, like awesome. We're not expecting that, but that's great. So I don't think it interferes with anything else that David Stearns is trying to do, whether that's sign 100 players off the scrap heap and see how many of them can hit, or whatever else they're planning to have up their sleeve this offseason. This is sort of just like happening in a silo. It is, let's have our offseason. Let's go sign these reclamation projects. And I'm with you, Kratz. They really do seem like this is they're putting everything in this bucket of we want to sign quantity over quality. Not that they're not signing good pitchers. All these guys, are getting signed for specific reasons. Maybe they have a live fastball. Maybe they have a great whiff rate on their slider. Maybe they were once really good, but have had some injury-prone years. So the Mets are collecting these types of pitchers, trying to hit on the upside. But I think when you get a chance to get a Roki Sasaki who has frontline potential, ace potential, and doesn't cost you what Corbin Burns costs you, or doesn't cost you what Max Fried costs you, it would be malpractice not to pursue that. I don't think the Mets are sitting there being like, Roki Sasaki is the linchpin of our offseason, and if we don't get him, oh, geez, I don't. No, they're looking at it as we're going to do what we're going to do, and if this guy wants to sign with us, like, huge bonus.
Yeah, and as you see, the Yankees have also been in talks with this young man. They had a meeting the other day trying to lure him to the other side. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the pitching as well. The Mets, they just signed Juan Soto. It's going to be a monster season for you coming up. This might be the most astronomical season for beat writers as well in New York. You guys are going to have a fun time over there. What else do the Mets need to get them over the hump to win a World Series? Not just Juan Soto. What do you think? What's the next step for them to get them over the hump?
I think they need Pete Alonso, Todd. I really do think they need the guy whose nickname you coined. I think they need him back in Flushing because I look at the lineup and it is missing that one big bat that you can put in the middle there, not just to protect Soto. Obviously, that's one reason why you do it, but to give you some depth because this is a Mets team, that was remarkably healthy last year, with the exception of a couple weeks toward the end of the year for Francisco Lindor. I mean, a lot of their guys played in most games. But what happens if someone gets hurt? What happens if someone takes a step back? I think as the lineup is currently constructed with Soto there, it's very good, but you could really use one more piece. The obvious place for the Mets to do that, because their outfield is full, most of their infield is full, is first base. I don't get the sense that they really want to move Mark Vientos from third right now, despite whatever defensive shortcomings might be there. So first base is it. Like that and DH are the two places you could feasibly upgrade. And guess what? Pete Alonso is by far the best first baseman out there on the market, especially now with Christian Walker going to Houston. You could have certainly talked yourself into a Christian Walker in New York, but that obviously isn't happening. So it's just this weird situation where he's the best fit for the team, Pete Alonso is. Pete Alonso has always talked about how he loves New York, how he would love to be back. It feels like it's got to happen at some point, right? And maybe it takes another few weeks to sort this out and for Pete to explore his market and to come to that same conclusion that all of us have kind of come to, which is that this makes too much sense to not happen. And you kind of have to hope that everyone comes to their senses at some point and Pete Alonso just becomes a Met.
Yeah, Anthony, I think it's making more and more sense because the big factor here is, will he find another team to give him $150+ million? It's hard for a righty first baseman at his age to find that usually. And he is such a perfect fit in New York with the Mets. He has thrived in a city that often can swallow up a player coming from another place and failing to live up to the expectations. So for me, I think it has just as much to do with the market. I just don't think there are enough teams that are out there that are looking to spend that kind of dollar on a first baseman like that. I also think many teams with their front office analytics departments really punish players that are of his style and his age and what the curve is. So I think the Mets are going to be fair with their offer, leave something on the table and say, hey, this is the best that you've got. Do you have any kind of outside teams here that you could see as a fit? I thought Houston was one of the teams that would go after someone like Pete. So you take them off the board. I'm having trouble. I mean, Ken Rosenthal was on the show just before and basically ruled out the Yankees for him. So who's giving him 150+ mil?
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned them, Scott, because that's the big one. Because if the Yankees aren't in on Pete Alonso, it suddenly becomes very, very difficult to find a place for him. Maybe a team like the Blue Jays, who have all this money apparently to throw around, but haven't been able to throw it around, would be interested. But they obviously have Vlad Jr. there. It becomes a messy situation. Do they trade Vlad? Do they move Vlad to another position? Do they split first base DH? It's just not as clean a fit as Pete Alonso in New York would be. Heard a lot of people chiming in at the beginning of the offseason saying maybe Washington is a fit. They've got this young core that's starting to, get to the place where maybe they could compete, but they could certainly use another big bat in there. And Pete would make sense on paper. I haven't really heard anything since the offseason has progressed that's a realistic destination. So, yeah, like Seattle could use a bat, but are they really going to spend $125, $135 million on Pete Alonso? You find that hard to believe. So every other destination you can come up with, other than the Yankees, who by all accounts don't really seem to be in on him, every other destination is like, well, it's a fit, but. Whereas in New York, with the Mets, with a fan base that loves him, a player that likes the city, who has been open about that, vocal about that, that's the one market where it's like, no, this is just a fit, period, as opposed to it's a fit, but. And so that's why I think it makes too much sense to not happen.
I feel like it's already written. And so, to me, I want to ask about their biggest move coming. Can they be a team that creates the bullpen that you need to get to the next level? Maybe some were surprised they made the playoffs this year. The way that team's constructed, they hit some of their pitchers, reclamation projects did well, but they didn't have that bullpen that you see that the Dodgers have, that the Phillies had going into the playoffs, and then that folded. Can they build that right now before the season starts?
I don't think they're going to build a bullpen before the season starts that you and I are going to look at it on paper and be like, this is a top flight unit. I think what David Stearns is trying to do is similar to what he's doing in the rotation, is collect guys with upside. And maybe that's one pitch, or again, maybe that's a guy that's had some injury troubles and is finally apparently healthy. But I think the thinking is if you collect enough of those guys, and I'm talking like a couple dozen, then 3 or 4 of them hit. And maybe 1 or 2 of them hit in a big way, where by the time August rolls around, you're thinking, okay, this is like my 8th inning guy. This is a guy that I really, really trust. And it's really hard to sit here and predict who that's going to be, because I just don't see the Mets going out and signing anyone at the top of the relief market. Very similar to what we're seeing with the starting pitchers, where Max Fried never really a thought for the Mets. Blake Snell never really a thought. It doesn't seem like Corbin Burns is going to be a thought. The relief market's not as deep as the starting pitching market, in my opinion, but even the top guys there, I don't see the Mets as being super interested. And they will probably get a guy or two on a guaranteed major league deal, say, we're signing you, you're going to have a spot in our bullpen no matter what. But I think most of it is going to be the incumbents, the guys who were here last year, whether that's a Dedniel Nunez or a Jose Buto, guys that had some success, and maybe they can string that out over a long season. And then also a high number of these guys they've brought in on minor league deals, on waiver claims, on trades, and they all have their little pieces of upside. Who hits, they'll have 8 of those guys in the bullpen, or they'll have 5 or 6 in the bullpen along with Edwin Diaz and some of the incumbents, and they'll try to build a quote-unquote super bullpen out of that. It probably won't look pretty when we get to spring training, but maybe by August it does. That's David Stearns' plan.
But David Stearns has done this before. I witnessed it. I played it. I saw it. I've watched the Brewers and been a Brewers fan and David Stearns fan for a while. It works in Milwaukee because there's not an expectation. You keep winning in New York, especially now the Mets and Steve Cohen, there's expectation to win. Can that model continue to win with higher expectations? Because what he had was, in those years, he had Devin Williams, he had Josh Hader, and then you pieced it together. So you have the Edwin Diaz. But is the expectation going to be too big for that large stage in New York?
Well, the thinking is, but here's what he has in New York that he didn't have in Milwaukee: a lot of money. And in this situation, that comes through in 2 ways. One is, a lot of these guys that they're signing are guys that maybe they had the choice of 8 or 10 teams that they wanted to go to on a minor league deal. And the Mets are saying, well, we'll kick in an extra $200K. And that sells a lot of guys. Okay, we'll come here and maybe wind up in AAA, but we're going to get a little extra money along the way. And the reason why they're willing to do that in addition to the salary is the other reason the money comes into play, which is the Mets have built this huge resource of pitching staff members and this pitching lab they have down in Port St. Lucie, where they're now developing a reputation that guys say, okay, maybe my career's on the brink a little bit, and that's the reason why I have to sign a minor league deal. But if I go to this team, similar to what the Dodgers have done for a long time, if I go to this team now in New York, they have this pitching lab, they have all these coaches who are world-class at this point. They can help save me. They can help me develop a new pitch or shape a pitch in a different way, or add 2-3 miles an hour of velo. And all of a sudden I go from a guy who's maybe scraping and clawing to try to get a minor league deal to next offseason I can get a guaranteed contract somewhere. So that's what they're selling these pitchers on. And I think a lot of pitchers are buying it. And look, it might not work. We don't have this huge sample size of track record that's saying everything David Stearns touches here is going to turn to gold. But I do think that the Mets are internally very confident that they can find enough good pitchers through that method, and they have been very aggressive in recruiting. I think today, with a couple extra minor league agreements for Anthony Ghost and Luis Ortiz, they've brought in 18 pitchers already this offseason, and there's going to be more. So you're probably talking about like 24 pitchers they're going to bring in. It's going to be a super crowded camp, and they're just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and expecting some of it to stick.
And that brings me to my next point there. My question to you would be, talking about young guys, or besides the big names that you got now, who, Vantos kind of came through, he came through last year. We didn't know Beatty and him were over to battle. Who is that guy that's going to be the next dude where it's like, all right, Vantos type, this guy's going to be here to stay and help this team that's going to click on all cylinders?
Well, Francisco Alvarez is the big one for me. And not that he's not already here to stay, he is, but he has not yet shown that he's like the dude, right? Like he's been pretty good. He's shown flashes. He's been better defensively than everyone thought. A couple of years ago, he popped 20-plus homers as a rookie, which was really impressive. But he hasn't been consistent. There's been a lot of swing and miss. There's been times where he just looks kind of lost at the plate. But this is the year. Like he's got 2 full major league seasons now under his belt. He's got plenty of time. He's comfortable as a receiver. This is the year where Francisco Alvarez is going to break out and become that middle of the lineup type force as a catcher, which really is really rare around the league. But the Mets have long thought they had it in this guy. I feel like it's now or never. Like this is put up or shut up time. And look, the version of Francisco Alvarez that's already been here is a pretty good player. Like I said, he's been better defensively than the Mets thought. He was a really good thrower last year, which is something he worked hard to improve. The makeup is plus, so there's always been this expectation that he's going to get 100% of himself out there. But offensively just hasn't shown up yet. I think he is a prime breakout candidate. And if you're the Mets, you're certainly hoping it happens this year because he's got the age now. He's got the experience. There's nothing standing in his way between him and that breakout.
I'm a big Alvarez fan. I know he faded a little bit with the bat, and there's questions about his blocking, all that stuff. He's got that makeup with the character and everything. Just meeting him one time when we had him on here in the show, I like it. My question for you though is about The Captain, your book about David Wright. You wrote that in 2020, am I right?
Yep, that's correct.
So I have to ask, did he tell you how he got called up from AA to AAA, or was this just a big league book?
No, we talked about that time, but I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, Kratz.
Did he tell you the last home run that he hit in AA and who it was off of?
No, I don't remember that one. Really?
I got 0-2 on him. I was pitching to him in the 13th inning, I think, and I threw an 0-2 knuckleball, and he hit an opposite field homer off of me. And it wasn't a walk-off, so I had to stay out there. So forever, me and D. Wright, while we have mutual friends from high school, we're connected that I got him out of AA. His 10th home run in AA or 11th home run, I don't know, but I made sure he left AA and made it to the big leagues soon after that.
0-2, you might want to go outside the zone a little bit there. Expand, make him expand.
No, I should have just gone Garrett Cole and go 4. I should have gone 4. Put him on.
All right, my last question to you, and this will be the finisher. Right now, I know you're a Mets beat writer, but I know you guys, you're not fandom. You're not fans of, some people aren't fans of the teams they work with. You got the Yankees, you got the Mets. Right now, Subway Series, who's winning if we had to pick one right now?
I think it's the Mets. I really do. And look, kudos to the Yankees for going out and kind of pivoting really quickly from not getting Juan Soto. You can make I wouldn't make the argument that they're better off, but I know people are trying to make that argument that they're better off, diversifying their portfolio and spending that money in other places. But to me, the Mets are on the up and up, and Steve Cohen is very, very committed to this thing. He's going to keep coming until the Mets break through and win one. So I would not bet against the Mets. I live here in Queens. I walk around the sidewalk. I see Mets hats constantly. This idea of like it being a New York Mets town, they're not quite there yet, but a couple more seasons of this, of big spending, of OMG kinds of seasons, that can change very quickly. So it's a very fun time to be a Mets fan. I'm not betting against them really in any context right now.
The rivalry is actually going to kick up a notch because we don't get this where they swipe the player that the Yankees wanted to keep. It gives a little more juice because it was a little stale for a while. So I'm excited about it. Yes, exactly. Anthony, thank you so much for the time. Great to have you on here. Don't be a stranger. Everyone check out his book too, especially with David Wright having a big year coming up, obviously within the organization. What day is his big day? Do you know?
That is July 19th at Citi Field against the Reds. Yeah, retiring number 5.
Today,
it's going to be a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
And
What's
today's
that?
his birthday.
And today is his 42nd birthday. Yeah, believe it or not.
Wow, look at that. Find it wherever you can find books. Anthony, great to have you on. Happy holidays, man. Good to see you.
Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.
You too. Appreciate you. Anthony DiComo with us on FT. Be right back. Actually talking Jeter when we come back. YouTube crowd, what's up? Please subscribe to our channel. Also like this video. And if you'd like to check us out via podcast, that'd be great too. Just rating, review, do all the nice things. Holiday time, it's free content. Yes, Todd Father?
Do you believe what he said at the end there, or do you in
What,
agreement?
Mets over Yankees?
Yes.
You talking
Today?
about, was his answer for today?
Right.
No, I mean the Mets.
I said
roster is
right
more
now. If
incomplete.
you had to choose
Yeah,
one.
yeah. The Mets roster is more incomplete. I'm pretty concerned about the pitching and the plan that they have. I voiced that the other day, Todd Father, that
Yeah.
I don't
No,
think you
did.
can just play the reclamation project game. I think you need multiple horses. And I love Kodai Senga when he's healthy, but he's an injury-prone pitcher. That's why he was a, quote, value for the stuff that he has. I'm going to need more than that. I actually think the key to winning a championship is having one or two of those big boys. No, it's the deal for Max Scherzer that gets the Washington Nationals a World Series title. It happens almost every year. It's the Astros trading for Justin Verlander and his contributions for a while. I mean, you guys can help me out here. There's been plenty that don't work, but there are number ones that are bought on the market that win World Series titles. It doesn't have to happen every year. I get it, but often it is the case where a number one or a number two starter puts a team over the top. It can happen at a trade deadline as well, but I'm pretty concerned about what it looks like right now. I think they have a lot of work to do, and if they're not in on Corbin Burns, and if they're not bringing Sean Manaea back, I'd start to get pretty concerned.
Doesn't mean
Right.
they're not a good team.
Yeah. No, I think they have a
Just
great
doesn't
team.
put 'em- just doesn't put them over the top, and it definitely doesn't put them over the Yankees right now.
Mm-hmm. Hey, quickie
Nope, that's
signings.
all.
We won't have time to spend a ton of time on it later. But Mike Soroka signed with the Washington Nationals. He got himself $9 million over one season. He's going to be a starter. His relief pitcher numbers this past season: 2.75 ERA, 39% strikeout, 6.39 as a starter ERA, 12% strikeout. But teams were like, "We'll give you a starting pitching contract." He's got the arsenal. So remember, this guy's been through it. But and if it doesn't work out, Kratz, for a month, they're going to be like, "You're really good in the bullpen."
I just couldn't believe how much his strikeouts ticked up when he went to the bullpen, because he is a power sinker guy. Maybe it's something shortening him up, figuring out how to harness that. He had some major injuries: Achilles, shoulder. He was an elite pitcher when he first came in. I think somebody can tap into it. $9 million feels like a lot, but good for him.
Yeah. Here we go. Todd Zolecki, MLB.com, Phillies beat writer, and of course, host of the Phillies show. And we'll call him star of the Phillies show because the other two aren't on right now. So why not? Make sure you check the
I
show
appreciate
out wherever
that.
you
I
get your
appreciate
pods.
that,
Check it out on YouTube. Yeah. Hey, Todd does a lot of heavy work behind the scenes. So this is a versatile man. Todd, but great to have you on. Great work on covering the Max Kepler signing yesterday. So we haven't touched that yet. Waiting for you on it. What do you think? This one's interesting. Jordan Romano, easy, makes sense. What is the thought process here?
It was surprising to me. So last night, Mark Feinsand and I were here that the Phillies had agreed to terms on a 1-year deal for an outfielder. So I immediately go, okay, so no Hernandez, no Santander, no Profar. All right, so I got to start thinking of right-handed hitting corner outfielders that could sign on a 1-year deal. So I'm looking at Mark Hanna, guys like that, because last year at this in July, the Phillies said we need a right-handed hitting corner outfielder to protect ourselves against left-handed pitching late in the season and postseason. So they traded Sir Anthony Dominguez to the Orioles for Austin Hayes. Hayes didn't work out. They non-tender him. So I'm going, all right, right-handed hitting corner outfielder. And then we find out it's Max Kepler. So it caught me by surprise, I guess. But, Kepler provides them some nice defense in the corner outfield. When he's healthy, he's productive. He doesn't swing and he doesn't chase a lot, which is something the Phillies have been trying to address in terms of the look and feel of their lineup. So like Romano, though, another guy in a 1-year deal, another guy looking for a bounce back. And I think that's what the Phillies are trying to do right now as they kind of nibble around the edges in terms of how to improve their roster. They're trying to look for, high upside guys that they don't have to commit multiple years to.
Is this a because of or about to type of move? Is this because of the fact that the Nick Castellanos getting traded before didn't work out? Or is this about to
Yeah,
have something else that's going to happen.
well, I think they're still going to do something else. Alec Boehm's name has been out there a lot. I know Ken Rosenthal said the other day that he still thinks he's going to get traded. That would not surprise me at all because the Phillies do want to try to mix things up a little bit. Now the Phillies have come out recently and said, listen, we're not calling teams about Alec Boehm. They're calling us about Alec Boehm. It's kind of semantics, right? I mean, are you shopping him? Are you not shopping him? They are making him available. They have been trying to make a trade that has involved him. So I think this could, I'm not saying this absolutely means something else is going to happen, but I do suspect something is going to happen. It could be independent of this. They could maybe still trade Alec Boehm or, maybe trade a pitcher or a prospect or two to address another need. But it is interesting. I think the biggest thing, Kratzy, is that the Romano and the Kepler deals tell me this, that they are being super, super cognizant of where they are payroll-wise. Before the Kepler deal, they were projected 2025 payroll to be around $289 million. Now they're right up at that $301 million. That's the fourth luxury tax threshold. So every dollar spent over that, you're taxed at 110% for every dollar over. I think they're very, very aware of that. And so maybe they're trying to nibble around the edges until they can strike big and make another upgrade somewhere, if it's the bullpen or if it's the lineup.
John Middleton said stupid money a few years ago, and then he's bringing in new people. To me, I feel like it's the losing the draft or losing the not the draft pick compensation, but the international money. That's where I think they don't want to go over that line. Does this mean someone else could be on the market? My mind goes to Brandon Marsh, somebody who came in and was playing a decent center field. Then Rojas plays a center field but doesn't hit. Now we see videos every week. Oh, Rojas home run in the Dominican Republic. And it's like watching, for Philly fans, it's like watching Ben Simmons shoot a three-pointer at the gym is like watching Johan Rojas hit a home run in the Dominican League.
Right.
We got to see it to believe it, but they have that defense. Max Kepler's defense in the outfield. Does he replace a Marsh? Do they look to move a Marsh? Or is there someone else that they're like, ooh, we can move some value with a contract to get something else?
Yeah, I think Brandon Marsh is a great name right there because, again, a guy with multiple years of team control. He can play a great left field. He's an above average center fielder. He hits right-handed pitching well. Has not really developed into the everyday player the Phillies have hoped he would. And I think Dave Dombrowski has said this phrase so much this offseason that he actually has mentioned it. It's like I've said this a lot, but open-minded. He says we need to be open-minded in how we improve this team. So that's why I think you've heard Alec Boehm's name a lot. You've heard Brandon Marsh's name mentioned as well, not nearly as much as Alec Boehm. But I think if the right situation came up, they could certainly include Brandon Marsh in a package to try to upgrade somewhere else. Yeah, and Kepler could maybe play some center field. He's played center field in the past, and he's an above-average defender. So I think really anything is on the table, other than maybe going out and signing somebody to a 5-year, $100 million contract.
I'm with you. And first off, the Phillies
Scotty,
are
hang on.
what?
Scotty, hang on. You're real fuzzy. You got a little buzzing on your microphone. So I'm going to ambush and ask all my Homer questions, unless Todd Frazier.
Yeah.
Do you have a question? You can take over. Not the real Todd Frazier, the real
I
Todd
do.
Zolecki.
Go ahead, Todd. What were you going to say?
I was going to say this is probably the only time you've ever had two Todds on the show. I mean,
only
Todd,
time.
our name has fallen out of favor the last 20 years. Let's be honest.
Man.
Yeah.
Hey.
You don't see too many kids. You don't see too many 6-year-olds running around with the name Todd. You know what I mean? So
I got to be honest with you. If somebody names their kid Todd, I will take that baby and I will buy it anything it wants because it just doesn't happen anymore. So we are just one. We're unique. We're one of a kind. Like you meet another Todd, you're like, no, you know what I mean? It's like this. This is a great day for me. This is a great day because it is. Nobody uses that name and it's so unique. The only thing I think about with the name Todd is from Christmas Vacation. You ever remember the show Why is the carpet all wet, Todd? I don't know, Margot. That everybody talks about that.
Well, my daughter's name is Margot, so that gets mentioned a lot during Christmas. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. Swear to God. Swear to God. Yep.
Is that why you
100%.
named her Margot?
No, it is not. But people have said you have to like create some sort of Christmas card at some point.
You
with the
have
two
to.
of you
Oh
on it.
my
Yeah.
God! And we're
Yeah.
or Halloween. No, but my question to you is: this team is stacked, man. They the names, from the Wheelers to the Harpers, to the Schwarbers. Like, why aren't they getting in this World Series every year? What is stopping this team? Is it the pitching? Is it not playing together? Is the chemistry? There's got to be something pinpoint because every year I talk to Kratz, I'm like, what is going on with this squad? Why aren't they not finishing out the year?
Yeah, I think the last 2 years for sure, the lineup in the postseason has just not lived up to the hype. They got off to such a great start last year that then they kind of slumped down the stretch. And if you look at I think the big thing, and in Philadelphia, you can't go anywhere without hearing chase rate, swing and miss. I never heard those phrases used anywhere near as much as I have since the 2023 NLCS. Remember the Phillies took that 2-0 lead over the Diamondbacks? I had people telling me they're going to roll over Arizona. This is over. They're going to win the World Series. I don't care who they play. And then the Diamondbacks went out and they just started throwing everything off the plate. And the Phillies kept chasing everything off the plate and they got themselves out of that series. And that kind of happened a little, not so much against the Mets last year, but the offense just did not perform. And so there's a lot of frustration in Philly right now. And they're asking the same questions that you are. Like, why is this team not going to get there? There's a lot of people in Philly that don't think that team is going to get there. But the Phillies, of course, like Dave Dombrowski, Rob Thompson, and the players will say, listen, we just got to get hot at the right time. We haven't been hot at the right time. It's all about who's playing well going into the postseason. And in the postseason, we've just had two bad series. And in the case of the Phillies, it was the final 5 games of the 2023 NLCS. And then those 4 games against a kind of storybook Mets team. So they still think, the people internally still think that this team is a World Series caliber team. They just have to step up when it matters the most.
All right, I think I'm back. Good. So I just wanted to say in response to what Kratz said 5 minutes ago, they have been spending stupid money. It's the number 2 payroll in the game. And I do think even though there's budget, it gets in your head at that threshold where you're going, okay, if I sign a player for $20 million a season and I'm on this tax number, I'm paying them 40 plus, even though,
Right.
You could technically say it's spread out amongst your whole payroll. That is how it works, right? This player is going to tax you double. So it is hard to get over that. So with that being said, Todd, my question is, what other creative shuffling can be done? It seems like it would be easier to pull off at this point via trade market. And at least from the notes I've seen so far this offseason, it sounds like the asking price for Alec Boehm has been quite high, and they might need to bring it down a little bit. Like I remember one report was talking about Logan Gilbert or George Kirby. I'm like, guys, come on.
Yeah.
You can't do that. That's not a fair fight.
No. Yeah. So I think, for sure, I think the Phillies are shooting high, at least at the beginning of the offseason with Alec Boehm and some of their players. Maybe that comes down. Maybe once the Alex Bregman situation gets figured out and he settles on a team, then the teams that had maybe fell short in their pursuit of him, they call the Phillies like, okay, we didn't get Bregman. What can we do to make Alec Boehm happen? So, yeah, I think it just makes the most sense that they make a trade if they are going to make that next significant impact move of the offseason. I guess they could still go out and kind of, bargain hunt. On our show the other day, Jim Salisbury mentioned, she's like, what if Carlos Estevez is hanging around for another few weeks and they can get him on a 1-year deal, maybe bring him back on a 1-year deal. Maybe if you can't upgrade the lineup like you really want to, just totally load up on a filthy dominant bullpen. And we've seen teams do that before, where they go into the offseason saying we need to really stack up here or improve here. They can't do it. So they add another pitcher or they add another couple pitchers. So I think that's something they could do. But, they have Alec Boehm, they have Brandon Marsh, they have Ranger Suarez who's in the final year of his deal, although I think the Phillies really value starting pitching. So I think it's unlikely they move him. But they have some top prospects that have garnered some interest. The one guy they won't trade is Andrew Painter. He's really their only true untouchable, but they have Aiden Miller, Justin Crawford. They have some other prospects at the top and in the lower levels of the system. I think a lot of players, a lot of teams would like. So they do have some capital, but they also don't have a ton of capital that they can just, put together necessarily that package the Red Sox put together for Garrett Crochet.
I'm going to video this on my phone because I don't think Jim Salisbury has internet at his house. You need to give me the last one here, just a comment. What is your power rankings on the biggest diva from the Phillies show? 1 to 3.
The biggest diva from the Phillies show? Well, I'm going to have to say I'm 3, right? Because I'm the low.
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh
Perfect.
gosh, I'm going to say Ruben. He's a former player. Come on now, you got to admit, right?
He's a
Former player.
He's the only podcast show guy who wants a private jet to get to his own show that's in his house. I get it. He's big league. I get it. That's all I need.
Big leaguers, man. You can't take the big leaguer out of the big leaguer, even if they're far removed. You know what I mean?
Todd, I'm going to post online today and ask if anybody named their kid Todd in the last 10 years. I'd be surprised.
If you get any response, I would be stunned. Unless it's a Todd Jr. Todd Jr.'s don't count.
I've never even heard of a Todd Jr. either. Like there's
because they know it's a bad call right out the gate. They lived it. They lived as Todds.
That's unsportsmanlike. This guy down here, unsportsmanlike down here.
Flag.
Put it out there. It'll probably go viral. You'll get every Todd on the planet.
That's
chiming in saying, "Hey, don't forget about me." It'll be good for the game. We're growing the game. Todd, great to have you on. Zolecki, have a great holiday.
You too. Take care, guys.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for jumping on. Todd Zolecki, part of the crew that hosts the Phillies show. Check it out. YouTube, listen to it wherever you get your pods. They've got a recent Jordan Romano interview that's really good and a Billy Wagner conversation. Also, you should definitely check out if you want to look back to their Charles Barkley combo. Of course, that's always gold. So we'll be right back, fam. We're going to go over Derek Jeter's legacy. All right.
Hey, I just found out something.
Yeah.
Can I just? 1 out of every 16,321 boys born in 2021 were named Todd.
There you go. So you're saying there's a chance.
You get a lot of retweets.
I mean, that's not good.
No, it's not a high number, but there's a lot of people on this planet, so it's going to get traction.
All right. We'll see.
It's shared. It's going to get traction. Post that. Let us know how it goes.
It's not even a nicknameable name. Like, it's not
Godfather. What are you talking about? You add to the name.
Yeah, I mean, you need extra. Like, you can't be like, hey, Toddy, hey, T, hey, Odd,
Diddle,
hey, T to the Dizzle.
My late grandpa called me Toddy. Hey, Toddy, and that was the only one that ever did it. So
did he drink hot toddies?
Ooh.
It's a perfect time of year for those, actually. All right, couple quick questions here. Nicholas said, what if Philly got Bichette and moved Trey Turner to center field? I'll tell you what would happen. Trey Turner would go ballistic because he does not want to play center field. I know that with pretty strong sources. He would be very angry. Who was it? The Nationals just like suddenly blitzed him, right, for a little bit, and he played center field. He was not pleased. Wasn't it the Nats? Didn't he play a little center with the Nats? Yeah. I mean, it's been a minute.
I mean, I'm sure he did.
Or was it the Nats, or were they shopping him to another team? Whatever. All I can tell you is, I promise you, I've got some insight. He would be very angry about that. He has promised the shortstop role, and even if you have to move away from that one day, he's going to want to move maybe to like a second base. So just
the Phillies aren't that bad. People need to stop talking about. I mean, Philly is on fire because of it, but they also are on fire because the Flyers suck. The Eagles are just on another planet, the Sixers stink. The Phillies are not that bad. Like, it doesn't have to be this overhaul. Best starting rotation in baseball, numbers wise.
Yep, you're right. Dusty asks, I know Suzuki's cheap. Can teams give him a signing bonus to sweeten the deal, a big bonus, or limited on the cap? Nope, they're limited on the cap. So everyone's going to have the same little range, and it's not much in baseball terms.
Snap.
Yeah, I think it's 48 mil-ish. And then Mike D said, why did Arenado have the Angels on his trade list? He wants to be in California. That's where he's from.
He's already paying taxes out there. He lives out there, so don't go there.
I don't think Artie Moreno, owner of the Angels, is going to take on.
He's not going there.
Another guy at third base like that. So I don't think he's going there.
It's not even a no trade. It's just teams that he put out there. His actual no trade is probably to the Rockies, the Marlins, the White Sox. That's how no trades
Sacramento.
work.
All right, so we're just looking back at modern legends in our sport, and I encourage everyone to check out what we did on Barry Bonds and Barry Larkin, either in our previous live shows or nice little videos that'll be there for you around Christmas time. But let's focus on the captain, the last captain, Derek Jeter. All right.
Derek Jeter.
Exactly. We all know him well. We watched his entire career, at least us three. We're old enough to say it. 1996 Rookie of the Year, a 5-time World Series champion, known simply, in my mind, in modern baseball as a winner. 3,465 hits. He was the World Series MVP in 2000 in that Subway Series against the Yanks. All kinds of Gold Gloves. The batting average in his career was above 300. The OPS was above 800. Instant Hall of Famer. Somebody was being mean, and so he was 396 out of 397. So he wasn't, quote, unanimous. I don't care about that, but dude's a legend, and I don't think it's going to be tough for either of you to talk about him. But, of course, the online community starts to look at rate stats, wins above replacement. You could see that line there. Look at the WAR, boys, from 36 on. It wasn't pretty, and he had some nice numbers. He also had some numbers that were just okay. His glove was very solid, but I would say that's just from the eye test, and back then we didn't have the same D metrics, and I know they try and play catch up on that, but he wasn't the rangiest shortstop in the game when he was playing. He was just the surefire thing. But Todd, Father, you watched Derek Jeter his whole career.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's definite Hall of Famer. We all know that. He's a stud. We talked about a clutch gene, right? And some people believe in that. Some people don't. He had it. If there is a clutch gene, he was one of the top guys. Whenever he came up, it was either an opposite field home run or finding a way to steal a base or making the big play when he needed to get there. Everybody remembers the jump throw that he pretty much created. But he was just an incredible athlete, never got in trouble. Nothing happened to him off the field. Always, you hear some people come out and say, hey, if Derek Jeter didn't play for the Yankees, he would have been a nobody. I still don't believe that. I think he's a ball player. He came up with strong background. He played with some of the best Yankee teams out there. And, the one thing I think of him leading off the game against the Mets with the home run kind of kickstarted them in the Subway Series in 2000. And it just seemed like every big situation he came up clutch for the Yankees. And there were very few that he didn't. And if not, he found a way to make a player be a part in some of the biggest plays. And, man, what a career he had. Phenomenal.
We can't judge character based on numbers. We can't judge heart and hustle and all that he hustled for, 90% of his doubles and all that stuff. We have the numbers. That's all we have to look back on is the numbers. And his numbers were incredible because what do we talk about every day with some of the best players in our game, some of the best Giancarlo Stanton, unbelievable power, got to stay on the field. Mike Trout, generational player, got to stay on the field. Look at what Anthony Rendon's done, got to stay on the field. Derek Jeter stayed on the field. Derek Jeter was out there. And people were like, if he didn't play for the Yankees, maybe he wouldn't have gotten as much fanfare early in his career. Oh, wait, so who are you saying he's playing for? Because you can't take away the team that he's on and take away his World Series. If you put him on another team and you say, he's 20, let's see, he was 28. He was 27 when he won his 4th World Series. So whatever team he's on, he has 4 World Series rings. And if you think he's just a consistent player, day in and day out, he's consistent, then you have to look at his numbers. 3,456 hits. This man got hits. Whether you think it's because he was out there every day, fine. He was out there. He couldn't field the ball at the end of his career when I played against him. That's why the grass in Yankee Stadium was like this high. It was, you did not hit a ground ball. If you hit a ground ball, shoot, the third baseman would charge and get it before it could even get to Jeter. But you sit there and you go, this dude was on the field and he got his stats because of the fact that he was on the field. Find someone else that has been on the field as much as him for as long as he did, then we can start putting him in the Derek Jeter category, which is HOF, Hall of Fame.
Also, clutch matters. I mean, he's playing big games at all
It does.
times,
Oh,
right?
Thank you.
You know, you're playing big games as the big bad Yankees during that time period. You're playing in the playoffs. You're a World Series MVP, and obviously had electric World Series numbers in general. That stuff matters. Like Kratz is talking about. Sure, you want to say compiler. Yeah. He compiled 150-ish game seasons and more, right? 160-plus game seasons over and over and over again, playing on a team with a very, very, high-pressure situation at all times. The dude delivered. The overrated part, guys, for me, is definitely bothersome. I just think rated. I mean, if you consider Derek Jeter a top 10 player of all time or something crazy, then yeah, you're way off. But I don't think most people that know baseball consider him in that realm. There was a good question in the chat. Obviously, the chat's popping off, asking if he's in the same regard as some of those old-time Yankee legends. And I'm like, he is for winning, but he's not for performance, right? I don't think anybody's calling him Babe Ruth.
No,
I mean, also,
he's not Mickey
if we're
Mantle.
doing comps like that, yeah, exactly. He's not Mickey Mantle. Very different, okay? And very difficult to pull off comps like that anyway. If you look at the time period Babe Ruth was playing baseball in. But I'll give you a couple other haters because there's plenty of them. Our chat's been okay, but going on Reddit, there's always topics that pop up on this. So I'll give you two. And most of it just picks on the defense, audacity on Reddit. To be clear, Jeter was a great player. Was talked about like he was the greatest player, which he wasn't. No doubt Hall of Fame, very good hitter, wasn't great on D, won a lot of gold gloves based on reputation. Basically same career WAR, OPS, and OPS plus as Barry Larkin. Said Larkin was better defender. Jeter stuck around longer. Larkin, another great player, no doubt Hall of Famer. Nowhere near as famous as Derek Jeter. Yeah, the market factor plays in. The titles play in. That's okay. So, and then one other, Wolves in this Reddit post, just talking about his defensive WAR career, negative 9.4. And like we're talking about, especially deteriorated down the stretch. And some people pointing out how A-Rod should have played shortstop instead of him when he came over. So just different. Defensive metrics were different back then. He was the guy. A-Rod was going to have to move over if they were going to make this all happen. I don't know. It's hard to be critical here, guys. He did what he was supposed to do. And yes, he wasn't the best player in the league at any time, but I never felt that way. I never looked at him that way. And even growing up when he was first in the league, I was pretty young and I still looked at other players like, let's go to the early 90s when he comes up. I didn't go, oh, this guy's better than Ken Griffey Jr. It's just a guy who won and was everything you ask for in a World Series winning shortstop, captain of a big market team with a ton of pressure that was putting together a dynasty.
Let me ask you this: all-time Yankee shortstops.
I don't know. I'm not good enough at that.
You know what I mean? Like, what is he? This is am I way off by saying he wouldn't be the starting shortstop for an all-time Yankee squad?
I don't know the rest of the names. I would have to see the rest of the names and compare it. But
That's
I mean, it's our generation.
I was trying to ask Derek this question. He hasn't got back to me, but
okay.
I'm trying to figure out. I would love to hear some all-time Yankee shortstops. In my opinion, maybe I'm missing one guy where we're like, oh yeah, what are you crazy? I would love to hear. I mean, Rizzuto, maybe Rizzuto and him. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
it has to be. I think it has to be Jeter in my opinion.
But that's fine. I mean, but if Babe Ruth was the shortstop and he was a great glove, it wouldn't have even been in the same category. His
no doubt.
You know what I'm saying? His offense was good, and the Yankees don't have 10 insane shortstops in their long history. Just like Larkin's the best shortstop in Reds history, right?
Yeah. But what I'm trying to get at is, some people say I think he's an all-time great Yankee. I think he is. And when you bring up the Yankee lore, I feel like he's got to be a part of that, in my opinion. I don't know what ranking I would give him as an all-time Yankee, but he's got to be talked about. And, he'd be playing with the Mantles and the Babe Ruths and the Marises of the world if they came up with a squad, right?
100%. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I don't know where he ranks there. And, that'd be a longer session to figure out. But to me, like, how good was he? You have to understand, this man played 158 playoff games. And people will say, well, that was his team. That's fine. He still played he played an entire season of playoff games and essentially put up better numbers in the playoffs than he did in his career. So he was in those games, he produced, and you sit there and you have to give him his due, whether you think he was great defensively or not. He was out there and they kept playing him. You can't compare him to anybody else. And I don't believe anybody else is sitting there going, oh, he's the greatest of all time. I don't hear that argument. Is he popular? Absolutely, he's popular. And I think he earned that popularity. And it helped that he was a Yankee.
Yeah. Also, we go wherever we want on this show, so I'll go here. Derek Jeter played his entire career during the steroid era and was never linked to any of that. So again, I wasn't in his house. Many other people were. I wasn't, so I can't tell you anything.
Many other people.
He was squeaky clean. So if he wasn't PEDing and he was playing amongst many players, especially early in his career it's a factor. Okay? It's a factor. There were many people, including his longtime Yankee teammate eventually. I mean, A-Rod's an admitted steroid user, and who knows how much he did. But it's hard to make a comparison with those two when you're like, oh, A-Rod was so much better. I'm like, A-Rod was a juicer, admitted juicer. It's a different conversation.
There were so many on the Yankees. I mean, Giambi played with them.
Right,
Francisco
exactly.
Cervelli.
Canseco.
Melky Cabrera.
These are guys that got caught, too. You know?
Right. Those are the guys that got caught in a big market playing. Like, that's neither here nor there. 2014 was his last season. We came in as the Yankees. I mean, we came in as the Royals, and I got to see his dedication day, the day where they celebrated Derek Jeter. And they brought out celebrity after celebrity after celebrity. All this time, I had sent over a jersey to have him sign it. And Michael Jordan comes out. Michael Jordan comes out, like the whole stadium, Yankee Stadium was like, whoa, this is what this guy brings out for his celebrity day, like his celebration day. He gets Jordan to come out. Like, that was a moment. And the guys started warming up. Everybody started warming up in right field. And at the time, Chase Headley was on the team, and I think Chase Headley was 12. Obviously, Jeter's 2. Chase Headley's warming up on the line, and I see him turn around, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, I'm such an idiot. So I go up to Kukuza, and I said, Lou, I said, did Jeter sign the jersey I sent over already? He's like, oh, yeah, Jeter signs the jerseys right away. I have this jersey actually sitting on my wall right now. And I feel embarrassed, so I have to tell the story. I was like, I'm such an idiot. He's like, what happened? I go, I sent over a Jeter jersey, which I paid full price for. I thought I got this like nice Jeter jersey. Never in my mind did I ever think, it says Jeter on it. He never once wore a jersey with his name on it. And I got him to sign this Bobo jersey that I paid full price for that says Jeter on it. So I'm going to hang it up. I'm going to hang it up so everybody knows I'm a buffoon. And then I paid full price for a Bobo jersey with his name on it that he never wore a jersey like that.
That's a rookie mistake, man.
Yeah, it is. But it gives you character, Kratz. It's okay. Yeah.
I've done worse.
Please do tell. Do tell.
I didn't know the origin of that. I didn't know. All right. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. How good was he? 5-time World Series champ, Derek Jeter. If you're watching this after the live show, let us know other names that you want us to throw out there, and we'll cover it. All right.
Oh, there it is.
That's so good. I was waiting for that cookie. There it is.
He's got a great autograph, though. I love his autograph.
So pro.
He does.
So pro.
And for everyone else, we'll be right back. Here we go. We've got win totals for the New York Yankees. So the BetMGM line came out for the 2025 season, baby, since we had Todd on last time. And, let's hit the line first. Thank you, Leo. Let's see it. 91.5. is the number for the Yanks?
For the Mets.
Mets.
Oh, sorry. We did Yankees the other day. Why did I say? I
We
kept
did
saying
Yankees.
Yankees.
I
We
was
just talked
going
about
to
Jeter.
stop you, but you were on a roll. Sorry.
I
No,
know.
we
I
go.
know. All right, Metropolitans 91.5. I mean, guys, right now I'm taking the under, but I think this number is factoring in. There's work to
Oh,
do.
wow. Under.
Do you
With
agree?
the current
You don't-
roster, it's incomplete.
To tell, Todd.
Hey.
To tell.
Listen here, man. Listen, this free agency ain't over. This is one. Now, hear me out here. This is one you might want to take now until they. What happens if they sign Pete Alonso? What if they sign Suzuki back? Oops. 91 goes to 93, then 93 goes to 94 and a hook. So right now, I think they find a way and get over 90. I think they get 93 wins right now. I still think I think they're going to be a pretty good team.
I love that you said that, Todd, because I hope they go to 94. I'll double down on it again. Do you know where they're playing? They're
Where?
playing in the
NLB.
National League East.
Well, they're the beast of the East right now. They made it the furthest. Oh, I like saying that. Beast of the East, baby. Woo!
Sorry.
Now, hey, take this out of it and use this a little bit, okay?
I am using
They're going to have some healthy guys coming back, and they are going to be a pretty good ball club. Soto, you see what Soto did with the Yankees? I feel like it's going to happen. They're just going to ride that wave. Oh, my God. Watch out. I'm telling you, man.
And Kratz, by the end of the offseason, you might want to take that over. But we'll talk. We'll keep an eye on it.
I can
BetMGM
change my mind by the end of the offseason. Today, I ain't changing my
I
mind.
don't think so.
I understand,
It's-
but this is a
It's
futures
don't think
bet. Just
so.
keep that in mind. 7
Yep.
days of parlays. It's day 4. It's the NBA for the same game parlay boost token. Go get after it. Look at more info in the app. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Be right back to hit more signings in the past 24 hours that have gotten overshadowed. Hot corner, let's sizzle. What about Patrick Sandoval? Kratz, did the Angels handle this the right way? I mean, they had him for a while. He's got the TJ. He's coming back. Second half of the season, Angels non-tendered him. Would have made $5-6 million if he went to arbitration. Instead, he'll get that. He gets $5.5 million in the first year of this contract with the Boston Red Sox. It's a guaranteed $18.25 million over 2 years, so 12.75 in 2026 when you'll get what should be a full season of him. He would have cost about $13 to $14 million if the Angels kept him for the next 2 seasons. Of course, looking back, I just always want to know the inside info. Like, did the Red Sox and the Angels have a conversation? And at the time, the Red Sox were like, nah. And then a few weeks later, they decide they want him. And then they end up paying $5 million more in guaranteed money.
I don't know how he got it up that much higher if that had happened, because the Red Sox would have definitely taken that deal. My thing is, like, how did the Angels fumble this? I like this guy. He was clearly pitching through injury, unless it was, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was a one pitch, boom, ow, pinchy the Tommy John. His numbers weren't great, but he's been a very solid pitcher for them. He has kind of anchored their rotation out of nowhere when he first came on the scene for them, and to me, they could have still had him. I'm not sure. Like, they're not a team that needs like 40-man roster crunch unless they're going to continue to bring more and more guys in, which I don't see happening. But I feel like the Angels fumbled this more than the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox got a great deal. You're essentially paying for a little bit of this year. I don't love it for the Red Sox because it's not what they need right now, but they did a great job. And they're paying $12.75 next year for him. Find a free agent pitcher on a 1-year deal for $12.75 million. And he will not come close to what Patrick Sandoval will give you.
Nasty changeup.
Oh,
Tough to find him. Yeah, good news. Good move here by Boston. Obviously,
Agreed.
They still, I think, need to get themselves one more arm in that rotation that's going to be ready for opening day. But we'll see. I mean, just to go on Boston for a second. And I like what they're starting to build here. And they've had obviously they've had a nice core here now in place with the prospects and some of the young players that are up on the big league club. The pitching is what's the focus. Craig Breslow should be good at doing that. A smart guy, former pitcher, the whole deal. The team pitched much better than expectations held last year, at least for the first half, 3/4 of the season. I mean, they looked like they had a chance to be one of the worst pitching staffs in baseball. It wasn't that bad. But for me, it's just still hard to see this team not going after Corbin Burns. But anyway, we can talk more about it next week. Sox signed Patrick Sandoval. We got to hit a quickie break here, and we'll come back for slap hands. And we can go over one of the other signings we didn't get to, which is Gio Urshela getting some PT with Sacramento.
I really would have loved to have seen Devin Williams on that 1-year deal be a Los Angeles Dodger because I love his stuff. I think he's incredibly, incredibly good. And I know that would have been a price point, I think, that Andrew Friedman was more comfortable. We've talked about it at length, too, how Friedman doesn't like to spend buku bucks on relievers. You saw him bring Blake Trinan back on a 2-year, $22 million deal. With the exception of Kenley Jansen back in the day in that same offseason, remember when they gave Rich Hill the 3-year deal, Justin Turner the 4-year deal, Kenley Jansen the 5-year deal, all at the same AAV for those guys. I mean, but that was a bona fide closer situation when Kenley was at the height of his career. I don't know that the Dodgers are willing to spend big bucks on relievers anymore. And Tanner Scott comes with a bigger price tag and a longer term deal. But now that Devin Williams apparently, thought he was coming to LA, there obviously had to be conversations that was a possibility. Devin Williams isn't just going to say that out of the blue, like, oh, I thought I was going to LA. I mean, obviously he's having conversations with his agent about what's happening, right? For whatever reason, he's a Yankee now, and that's fine. I just don't know if Tanner Scott is the right fit just based on contract and money. But then I'm thinking, who else is available, right? But for the first time in a long time, Clint, I'm okay with the bullpen pieces that we have. We talked about it on our last show on Monday that it would be nice to have another back end of the bullpen piece, but it's not a necessity. And I feel pretty good if everyone's healthy, okay, barring everyone being healthy, I feel pretty good about our bullpen if, in fact, Dustin May is actually put in the bullpen as well. I mean, think about the pieces that we have. Let's, talk about our relievers right now, right? I mean, we have obviously Blake Trinan is back, which was part of my Christmas wish list. We have Michael Kopech. We'll have him for an entire year. Evan Phillips, who was tremendous. Alex Vesia, who was tremendous. Anthony Banda coming up big in a lot of situations last year. Ryan Brazier, Ben Kasparius. I think Dustin May should be in the bullpen. Edgardo Henriquez, of course, Michael Grove, and then Giovanni Gallegos, who I believe is on that minor league deal, right?
Yeah.
To see if he makes this rotation, or excuse me, the bullpen. I'm okay with this right now based on health and based on the starters that we have, if they can go kind of deep into games. I don't know. Would I have loved to have Devin Williams? Yeah. Would I like to have Tanner Scott? Sure. I just don't know if that's in the cards for them.
One more baby signing we didn't get to. I mean, we asked Ken Rosenthal about it, so you can check that out earlier. But Gio Urshela to the Sacramento A's. 1-year deal, big league deal. He was better after moving from Detroit to Atlanta. I mean, it was only 36 games to finish the season, but he was much better with them. The bat picked up the pace. He was closer to league average with the bat for that last month. So for Sacramento, trying to pull some veterans around this big league club. And also, they're expected to maybe do one or two other things and try and convince some players to sign there. And guys, I think there's a chance this team could be a wild card contender. Obviously I'm not rooting against the team. I hate the owner. Obviously he's been a stain on the sport, but you know, there's nothing I want to see more than a A's-Rays playoff matchup. I root for chaos, guys.
No doubt you do. No doubt you do. But here's my thing. So, guys, are there not other teams looking to sign these players? You know, you think of Luis Severino, like that had to have been the biggest price he was getting. Is something is luring them? Something is luring them over. Like Gio Urshela, yeah, he's a what?
You know what this is?
What? Talk to me.
It's small, but it's what I use. This is a wallet.
Yeah.
It's the one that hooks to your phone. This is the only, and it's probably about the size of the wallet that the billionaire owner of the A's uses, and it's green, so this is probably his. But this is what they use. They say, hey, we have some forced money, literal forced money that we have to spend, or the entire league gets in trouble with a grievance. So will you take it? Yeah, no doubt. I actually can confirm the best offer Luis Severino got. I'm not an insider, but I know a couple people in his camp. The best offer he got was from the A's at that point.
This could lure some others over there. You know what I mean? I know I've heard it before, but I mean, can a Pete Alonso get lured over there if he doesn't have an opportunity to go to other places? What? Hey, you never know. You never know. They're willing to give out the money. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I mean, but you never know what is going to happen. So call me whatever you want. There's opportunities for guys. Guys are going there. They're playing in Sacramento. Like, good luck. They are getting paid. Watch out for this team. I'm not saying they're the greatest team or they're going to do damage or they might not even make the playoffs, but they are getting a couple guys to help them out.
Kratats, what do you got?
Gio is gold. Team that's going to sign Corbin Burns.
No, they're not.
You can record that. You can make it evergreen, whatever you need. Corbin's Burns.
No, burn, baby.
Hey,
He
get
looks
it done,
good in
deal
orange.
maker. Get it done, deal maker, Buster Posey. Let's go. You know it's got to go past Freed's deal in guaranteed money. Yeah, I like where Kratz's head is at. 8 years, 237.5.
Why don't you take his head and use his head? Switch.
That'd be more than 250 for this head.
That would be
You'd have to
so
pay
smart.
extra.
It would be so smart
Extra
if
space.
I had that cranium. Yeah.